Now in After Effects, I'll set up a simple scene and animate the character's position and the shadow moving beneath her. You can animate things like position and animate too, so you can do everything in both programs, but I find frame by frame excellent for morphing shapes like our shade and highlights, and After Effects is much more powerful for controlling your motion curves and adding style and effects. The timeline panel is selected and I can open up the comp settings with Ctrl-K. And I'm just going to change the aspect ratio to square, a nice size for social media. I could do this later before render as well. I want these two layers to be parented. Now if I move one, the other one won't follow, so I need to click the button called the pick whip and drag it to the layer I want parented. Now if I move that layer, the other one follows automatically. I want a nice blue sky in the background. I'll make that by creating a solid, by right-clicking and selecting it here. Choose whichever color you want and rename it to background. Then I want to make a ground. I could do it the same way or go and make it with the rectangle tool. You can change the fill right here. This is okay for now, maybe I'll change the colors later on. By clicking the layer and pressing enter, I can rename it. I'm gonna add an effect to the ground. You do this by going here and look for roughen edges. Double click on the effect as long as the right layer is selected, and the effect's values will show in this panel right here. I'm going to change the border to 28, the edge sharpness to 112, which I'm doing with the up arrow, and the scale to 440. And now you can see the shape is more organic and uneven. I'll drag this layer down. Now I'm going to animate the character's position, so I'll select the parent layer and press P. That will reveal the position's values. Press the stopwatch and you've created a new keyframe. Go forward to the middle of the timeline and either change the character's position here by clicking and dragging. I'll undo, and you can drag the graphic in the stage window as well. Either way will create a new keyframe automatically. Now go to the end and select the first keyframe and copy and paste it to the present position. She's moving up and down and it loops. I want a softer motion, so I'll easy ease these keyframes. Just select them all and press F9, and that makes the motion slow in and slow out of the keyframe. Now I want this to move even slower, so I'm going to open up the composition settings again and set the duration to 3 seconds. Now you can expand the timeline a little bit by unchecking these buttons right here. Now there's empty space in the end, and we need to expand the layers. The character layers have a fixed time from our export, so I need to right-click on the layer and go to Time and choose Freeze Hold on Last Frame. Then it fills out the whole timeline. And just select the background layers, hold down Shift to select both, and drag them by the edge to the end of the timeline. Now I'm going to select all the keyframes, hold Alt, and drag from the last keyframe out to cover the entire timeline. And that will slow the whole animation down a little bit. Seeing it play, I think I'm pretty happy with this motion. If you select all the layers and click U, they'll all collapse, and everything looks tidier. Now I'll make a shadow under the character with the ellipse tool. I can either create it right on the artboard with the cursor, or double-click the button, and it'll make a centered ellipse that you can reshape by pulling the edges. I'll just change the color to black. I'll name this shadow and place it further down in the layers. The anchor point is set to the middle of the artboard, so you can center it to the shape by control-clicking the pan behind tool right here. And I'll just drag this down a little bit to reposition it. This will animate too, so I'll look for the timing when the light is at its top point, and I'll create a keyframe there, where the shadow will be placed right beneath the person. The next keyframe will be set at the very beginning for the shade animation, and I'll move the shadow to the right. And then the same for the left side. Let's play this. I don't actually need a keyframe for the middle since it's just passing that part, but it doesn't seem to hurt the motion right now, so I'll keep it for this lesson. The last thing I want to do for the shadow is make it look like it's sweeping over an uneven surface, since we made the ground a little rougher. I'm adding a liquid effect. This time I'm dragging the effect onto the layer. Now I'm hiding the layers beneath so we can see the shadow more clearly. I'll select the smudge tool, which works similar to the same tool in Photoshop. Now I'll draw in some bumps. But now that we're working with motion, it won't only smudge the shape, but it will smudge the shape in that spot or that timing of the motion path. So I'm just clicking and dragging for some subtle curves, and I'll have to scroll through the timeline to smudge all along the motion path. So let's play this. And there it is, you see a shadow sweeping across an uneven surface. Most of the motion is done, but how about some extra style and details?